The president of U.S. has disclosed that the country's forces had captured Venezuelan leader Nicolás Maduro after launching a large-scale strike on the South American country. Trump's stunning announcement follows months of steadily mounting U.S. military and economic pressure on leftist leader Maduro and his country's oil export-dependent economy. Trump's claim of Maduro's capture comes 2 days after Maduro attempted to engage with Trump, offering cooperation on fighting drug trafficking and illegal migration. Trump is giving differing arguments for his campaign against Venezuela, including the claim that the South American country is a major drug exporter to the United States and that Venezuela seized U.S. oil interests. The Republican leader has not explicitly called for Maduro's ouster, but the U.S. government, along with many European nations, does not recognize the Venezuelan leader's legitimacy. And so to go into this further, we're joined by geopolitics analyst Yemi Fajemisin. He joins me virtually. Yemi, first of all, Happy New Year to you. And what a new year opening for Venezuela and its leaders. I mean, I got to ask, what strategic objectives might the U.S. be pursuing with alleged strikes on Venezuela and possible capture at this time?
Happy New Year to you as well. So we all, this is a very unusual development. We know there's been a build-up for a while with the U.S. bombing Venezuelan boats for some time now. So back to your question as to is there any clear objective? The answer to that is not very clear. At first, what the narrative the U.S. government is putting forward is one that says that President Maduro is in charge of a narcotics trafficking, and the FBI even put up a price tag of $50 million against Maduro. Now, what we've seen this morning is looking like a regime change. So some people will argue it's all about the control of oil and energy and to kind of scale back the influence of Russia and China in Venezuela. And also, some people will argue because the Trump administration is kind of pushing back against green energy, and the idea is all about control of energy resources. And in terms of the drug trafficking allegations against Maduro, the U.S. government hasn't put forward the credible evidence to say that is the case. So now that what we've seen now is a kidnap of a foreign head of state. So let's be clear though, most Venezuelans don't agree with the regime of the Maduro government. It's repressive, it's been killing critics and all that. However, quite a lot of people are divided as to do they want a foreign interference in the whole mix. So we don't know yet the kidnap of Maduro. Is it going to be tried in the U.S.? Is it going to be tried in a third party country? We don't know as of yet. If it's going to be tried in the U.S., they will have to prove that it's actually engaging in active narcotics operation. Right. So there's quite a lot of uncertainties as we stand now.
I mean, what legal justification does, if there's any, that Washington would have or invoke under international law for such military action against Venezuela? And seeing how long this is prolonged since late last year and going into just the third day of a new year.
Yeah, we don't see, personally, quite a lot of people agree that there's no legal justification for what just happened. The only legal justification the U.S. may have is the drug trafficking thing. So what we've seen is a total disregard for international laws, disregard for sovereignty of a country. And this could open a Pandora box as well. What is important to note here is if you look at the strategy of President Trump critically, he's more interested in winning now as opposed to strategic thinking. So what he's done now, we're going to be asking ourselves questions of what's China going to do in terms of Taiwan? So is China going to be thinking of capturing Taiwan as well, or even in the case of the Ukrainian war with Russia? So this is also within, even domestically within America as well, this could split the MAGA movement, because the Trump administration going to say they're not going to be interested in any foreign interference, which clearly they're doing now. And also there'll be conversations within the US as well as to if this is legal, because things like this usually gets approved by the Congress. So there's a lot of moving parts here that we're going to be seeing in coming days and coming weeks.
I mean, you're a geopolitical analyst, so I do have to ask, in terms of geopolicy or geopolitics, I mean, what countries would align or ally or strategically align with the U.S. And its action against Venezuela, or be on the side of Venezuela in this case, right? Seeing that the Europe itself, there's some parts of the Europe that do not recognize the legitimacy of Maduro's leadership. But away from that, there's also the matter of United Nations and its role. How would it play here for an emergency meeting if it were to convene?
Well, there's a cocktail of things here. When it comes to ally, we know quite a lot of Latin American countries actually support what Trump is doing. They haven't officially issued a statement yet, or some of them are right-wing governments, like the government in Argentina, the government going in Chile now. They kind of have a bit of support for what Trump is doing. In terms of the Western world, that's going to be another edict for them, because on one hand, they want to support Trump. On the other hand, they know exactly what's happening here is illegal. So it's going to be creating some form of edict in terms of the Western countries. So coming weeks, we paint more picture. In terms of the UN will probably, most members of the UN by now agree is a breach of the UN Charter. So sadly, I don't think the UN could do much. They might issue the normal statements, they might call a meeting, which any motion that is put forward against anyway, the US can always veto that motion. The US is a very important partner of the UN. So I don't think the UN can do much, sadly, in this instance. What is important to also discuss here is what is going to happen to Venezuela now. There's a power vacuum there. And the security apparatus or security architecture working for Maduro is still very intact there. So are we going to be seeing elections in Venezuela in coming weeks? What is the strategy is going to look like in terms of managing the country? Or the US government is saying, or President Trump is saying, is going to be doing a press conference very shortly, maybe to answer those questions. But we could be sleepwalking into a case of Iraq or even Libya if we're not careful.
Well, only time will tell, and let's see how this plays out. One thing we know about Trump is that he doesn't stick to script, one, and then two, it can be very trigger happy if you push him. I must say thank you for taking out the time to join us here. Yemi Fajemisin, just giving us a bit of insight following drone attacks, the alleged drone attacks in Venezuela, the capital, Caracas.